for visiting their booth. So when I opened those up, there were two thoughts that I had running through my head. Either was it, one, did you people just use last year's list? You know, did that company just use last year's list and fire off just thank you notes of people that went to that show? I'm wondering if they even exhibited, because I don't even know, because again, I didn't go.
Yeah.
And then two, the other thought that I had in my head was, did the show management, because attendance was down or what have you, combine last year's list with this year's list? So when the exhibitor bought a list to do their marketing with, because they didn't have their strategy in place for obtaining proper leads, they just said, oh, I'll take the easy way out, which is actually the least cost-effective way out. And did they just combine them then? And then now that's why I'm getting hit? It seemed ridiculous.
That had to have been some type of an error, either on the, I'm assuming by the actual trade show management, because it wasn't just one company. You said you had several.
And so didn't my friend.
That had to have been just they just gave out the list of last year and this year and go, here you go.
Had to be an error. Now, I would like to think that that's true, but on the flip side of it, I've just read too many things. I mean, if you're the show management, maybe the show wasn't good. Maybe it was a bad show. I mean, heck, if the economy's not good and people aren't going to the show, they still need to make it seem as though it's, hey, this is a profitable show, still thriving, and they're trying to get people to go. But how painful is that the companies, they don't have a strategy in place. Otherwise, they would have known that I didn't show up at their, at their display.
And when you look at that, and not only that, I'm sure you got it in the mail. Did you get emails as well? Or is it just mailers?
I'm trying to remember now if I did get a couple emails. But I know I got physical mail. The physical mail, I mean, it's too easy to delete.
Yeah.
So I mean, I get so much junk that I go through quickly and delete that. But when you get a physical piece of mail, especially one that doesn't make sense,
exactly,
you're going, I wasn't even there. What are you people doing? So yeah, it was physical mail that I received. That's nuts.
That is. Like I mean, think about the waste.
I wasn't even qualified.
Exactly.
You didn't qualify me. You don't even know. You just literally just threw out a piece of mail for no apparent reason.
And any company that's exhibiting at a trade show, they need to have some type of a strategy in place that qualifies the leads. But not only that, connect with the people in the way that they want to be connected with. So
what's in it for me?
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, especially now that we're getting into the social media age where you can actually use social media. Some people want to be contacted through Twitter or Facebook or email, or they want a direct mail, or they want a phone call. That should be determined in the booth. In your display, that should be part of the process where you're able to figure out how the person wants to get contacted, what information they want, and how often they want to be contacted.
So that's the type of thing that you need to do before your show starts.
Yes.
And then whoever came up with the plan, the strategy, they then need to communicate that with the people that are going to be in the booth.
Not only that, but also the people afterwards, because not all trade shows, when you go to a trade show, companies will look at it and they'll say, okay, we're going to take all these leads, and now we're going to segment them and give them to the certain areas. So the designated area, the salesperson in the designated areas. And then it's up to them to follow up. Now, those people that weren't at the show and didn't talk to any of the customers, they're going to be sitting there looking at the leads and going, I don't know anything about these people, because they just get a list.
Oh,
they get that.
right.
They get that giant list of, oh, here's your Excel sheet. Call these people. These are good leads. I don't know them. I've never talked to them. I have a ton of other work. Maybe I'll call a couple of them. You'll get shut down, and then they'll just disregard the rest of the list. So if you have a little bit more information, you actually have, and you do the time before the show, and get the appropriate information, have the right questions. That way, when you hand those leads over to someone, they have something to work with.
So don't just throw out the fishbowl and collect a business card. You actually want to engage these people, find out a little bit more about them, make a note about it, so that whoever it is that's doing the follow-up can say simply, hey, thanks so much for stopping by our booth. I noticed here that you were interested in.
Exactly.
And now it's more about them.
And if you're able to rate the lead too, like an A, B, or C, to see how hot they are or how interested they are, that's also very helpful in terms of deciding on who to contact and when to contact them. Who to contact first, I should say.
Right. Because it would obviously make sense to call your A's first your B's second, and your C's are probably more of your trickle marketing, you know.
Exactly.
I mean, they certainly would appreciate the phone call and a thank you.
Yep.
And you never know. Somebody could qualify somebody improperly. You just don't know. But it does make sense then to call the A's first, so when they're hot. So when it comes to follow-up, how often, I mean, what's the statistic of people doing follow-up?
Statistically, the best rate is one you want to send out if you're going to be doing an email or any type of message. Morning's usually better, and usually beginning to the midweek, and you want to get it to them about once every 3 weeks.
So touch them once every 3 weeks
Once
after
every
a
3
show?
weeks after the show. Now, in terms of the show, because you have to think about what they're at the show too, so they're away from work.
Okay.
So if you want to send out some point of contact right immediately, that's okay. Right after the show, they're going to get bombarded with a lot of things, and they need to catch up. So you might want to just drop an email and say, hey, I understand it's going to be you're very busy right now. I do want to get you this information. If you want it right now, we can do that, or I'll reach out to you in another few weeks. So if that's for those A leads. If you hit those C leads that they're not very interested right now, that's where you can do just kind of send a message saying, thank you very much for coming to the booth. Here's some little information about us. We'll keep in touch, and then every 3 weeks they can go on some type of a automatic marketing campaign.
And one of the key things is to make sure that whenever you're engaging, you're always getting a commitment to that next step.
Yes.
Don't ever just call and then, okay, thanks, and you hang up the phone and now what?
That's a very good point.
So make sure that you really know, oh, now I'm supposed to do this.
Yeah.
Whether it was, call me back in 2 weeks. Whether it was, no, to be honest with you, I wanted to win your flat screen TV. I just threw in the card. So now at least you know you can check them off, throw them, toss them out of your database, get rid of them. It's a useless lead. It's just cluttering space.
Exactly. And that's usually when you set up a campaign of what you're supposed of through the entire campaign. You'll have different segmented lists. So that way, if you're on an A list, okay, this is the campaign that we're going to be putting you on.
Okay.
This is the process.
Right.
B, okay, you're going to be here, and that might include emails, that might include direct mail, that might include a phone call, whatever it is.
Right.
And then you have the C leads, and that's a certain type of list as well. So if you're contacting the A's, and all of a sudden they say, not interested at this time, you might want to just put them onto a C, because it's going to be a completely different list because of their interest.
Right, that makes sense. Now, we've got about 2 minutes left, and there's one other thing that we really wanted to touch on, which a lot of people aren't aware of, especially if you're doing a larger show and you're going to places like McCormick Place in Chicago, the Javits Center in New York. Drayage.
Oof.
What is drayage, and why do I need to be concerned about it?
Drayage is pretty much the big companies. They charge you for the weight of your display. So
Now,
as soon as your exhibit comes off the truck and it's sitting there in the loading area, as soon as it's there, you're getting charged for it by the weight.
At the show, where the show is, the convention hall.
Yes.
Okay.
So while it's sitting there, the union's charging you, and then from there, they will charge you from taking it from point A of wherever that loading dock is to your exhibit space. And
then
they will charge you by pound.
by the pound.
Yes. So by the weight, the heavier your display is, that's in crates and everything else, the larger the bill is going to be, basically.
Okay.
And vice versa when they take it from your display and bring it back.
And
They'll
they
charge you then,
store,
too.
like all your crates and stuff that carries everything, they're storing that.
Yes. So there's a few things that an exhibitor needs to keep in mind. One, if you want to lower those costs, because those costs can be astronomical depending on the size of your booth and what you have in there. The first thing of advice is don't bring any marketing material with you. So if you have handouts, limit those, because that can be very, very heavy. The other thing, and people usually throw out trade show collateral anyways. If you want to also make sure that your booth is very light, try to come up with some type of the construction of it should be lightweight, and you can also get cases
that are lightweight.
that are lightweight.
Right.
And then that's pretty much, you can't really get around it. You can try to cut in other areas.
Great, great. Well, I want to thank my guest, Rob Hackinson from TMG Exhibits,
Thank you.
for visiting today and sharing his sound business advice on Reverb.